the digitally enhanced Andy Burke and Lost, says he is the leading nougat centrist in Chattanooga. I say no. I'm number one in nougat centrism, having I think developed that term. However, you may use that term at will. It is not copyrighted, and nothing I say here about nougat centrism and localism, which is in the end really a kind of intergalacticism, is copyrighted or trademarked, and you may freely you may freely use it and not give credit to me. That's quite all right. In fact, I want you to pretend it's your idea and pretend it's your theory. And in fact, put my slogan in your store. Hang it on. Have some good printing done at Advantage Printing, where we get our work done. Advantage Printing here in Chattanooga on Brainerd Road, and have placards made, maybe 3 feet or 4 feet left to right and 2 feet tall. And the slogan is "Love your neighbor and buy local." Have that sign is suspended at the head of every aisle of your business, and that way you get the word out that we do have a kind of a prejudice for our local owners, and though we certainly patronize businesses owned by strangers and aliens, that's fine. We're glad they're here, but we are prospering in Chattanooga, and our city gains in the digital economy, in the world economy, putting us further toward the stead of being an independent city state, which is maybe the goal, if we have more local owners. It's one thing to be an employee, and it's another thing to be an owner. We're glad that there are people who can be employed and who are willing to work with one as an equal, as a contractor, or under one as employee in the master-servant relationship. That's fine. And it's good if you're looking for work to find work. And it's good, though, too, to be the owner. And what we need in Chattanooga are more owners, because if you're the owner, well, guess what? The capital stays here. The money that comes in, that's the profit, the extra after all the costs are met. That is the profit. And a lot of owners, what they do with the profit is reinvest it in their businesses, right? They plow it back into the business to hire somebody else, or to start a new program, or devise a new area of service, or maybe to reach a new part on the map where your business doesn't have a lot of influence or a lot of note, and so your investment is in your business providing more of the services that you already do as the owner. But of course, as the owner, you might just take it for yourself. You might pay yourself. You might pay a dividend to yourself. Pay the dividends that are long overdue, perhaps, to your investors, and satisfy them with the principal restored and a handsome profit that's taken far too long to get back to them. But they have invested in you because they're patient, and their investment is, in the end, is personal. And just pay me back when you can. That's kind of their perspective. They're patient. They are holders of patient capital, and they have let you use it to get going. You are grateful, and you want to reward those people, making them do better than if they owned Vanguard shares, right, or bought a stock or fund an annuity, perhaps. This is David Toulis, and we want you to prosper and to come out ahead. One of the things I want to mention today is the problem of the loose lips and loose tongue. We heard about that from Dale Liner. He is the deputy hired by Sheriff Eric Watson, the man against whom apparently there have been some complaints in the past about abusive process or abuse of process. And we heard about an extraordinary show of courage, right? An extraordinary demonstration of personal courage in the harassment of Jermichael Parks and his cousin Terrell and other Parks family members at a gas station in Bradley County. I think it's Harry's gas station. And there's a lot of loose lip work from the deputy there, and I'm urging Jermichael Parks to please make an affidavit. Please make an affidavit. It's an important point to do. Hanson Melvin, who was abused in 2016 by a Chattanooga cop who was not indicted as he should have been for perjury and abusive arrest. Hanson had the beginning of his whole defense of his innocency was to make an affidavit. And he did that. You can read it at Nuganomics.com, the website for the Man Who Matters. It was, I think, probably one of the best read pieces I've ever put on that platform, because it was genuine, it was true, it was very. He captured the detail of the David Campbell arrest of him, and showed the perjury that was involved in a criminal act by an employee of Mayor Andy Burke. Who was fired, and then who is now being he's now being sued in equity court for his actions with the city. Loose words are a bane to our race, right? Our human race, that is. And when I encounter careless talk, even say around the office, I've been pretty hard on it. I don't like foolish talk. I try not to be someone who engages in it myself, and I hope here on our show, the David Tulis Show, that you don't hear any of that from me. No joshing, no kidding. I really, double entendres and things like that. I'm not prone to want to do that. And there's a story that I make note of that shows the evil of careless talk, and it is from. I'm getting this from Tom Humphrey. It's about the State Election Commission, and it voted on Monday to throw out of office a Putnam County election commissioner named Terry Herron. And the report I have here is from the Cookeville Herald Citizen, and there was some testimony. There was kind of an administrative trial for this election commissioner, with several people testifying about an incident that is already 4 years old, and here now. The wheels of administrative justice grinding to a conclusion, and from flapping gums in jest. Okay, foolish jesting talk, which I despise it. And when I encounter it here in my business, Nuga Radio, I always warn against it. I always warn against joshing, noisy camaraderie, which is all in fun, of course, but I think it can tend to poison the atmosphere and cause misunderstanding. And that's what happened with Terry Herron. According to the story, Herron said to me, you have to get strip searched. And I'm pretty sure my face dropped. And I thought, I can't do this. And this is an election office employee testifying before the State Election Commission on Monday. And the question was about people going to the jail to handle election matters. And there were 4 election staff members, and it regarded visits to the Putnam County Jail to assist inmate voting. The employee said she thought Herron was joking, but after she parked the car and met Herron inside the jail, she said that the deputy said, "We're going to vote in this room, but we first have to do a strip search." So apparently, the election commissioner made a joke with the deputy and said, "Well, let's just tease this person and say we're going to have to strip search her." I mean, that is, it's all in fun, right? All in fun. I started to have a panic attack, the employee said. Then everyone started laughing. Well, you can't have but the feeling of humiliation in a situation like that. Here, everyone's laughing about you being strip searched and by a man, right, in a public setting, in the room where the voting is going to take place. And then everyone started laughing. So everyone's in on the joke, but they all said that to her, Herron and the deputy, with a straight face. It is simply wrong. The employee said that Herron continued to tell the story about the strip search joke, which was corroborated by other staff and election commission staffers who testified at the hearing that was Monday. The employee said that during last year's June seminar for election commissioners and election personnel that Herron told the story there too. This man in a 2014 incident repeated the story. I mean, he's repeating how they all had a great laugh at the witness telling her that she was going to have to be strip searched at the jail by a male, by either a trustee or a male sheriff's department employee. Herron was talking to a commissioner from a different county, she said. I said, "Please don't tell the story anymore. I don't know the man." I was so embarrassed. And so again, we have this careless use of the tongue. And I was trying to find a proper scripture, and I found one in Isaiah For the foolish person will speak foolishness, and his heart will work iniquity, to practice ungodliness, to utter error against the Lord, to keep the hungry unsatisfied, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. And that's what joking is, right? Joking is always doing just the opposite, doing just the wrong thing, as a laugh, right? We have security, so obviously security means you have to be stripped, right? And your body cavities probed by the non-gloved, grimy fingertips of the deputy, right? We've had cases like that where officers strip search women on the side of the highway, and these are simply abominations. Okay, they're abominations to God, I would say, but they're also abominations in the law. And we heard how Jamichael Parks, the truck driver, caring for his relatives and running a phone camera owned by his cousin Terrell Baker, being lectured for minutes on minute, for dozens of minutes at a time, by Dale Liner, Bradley County Sheriff deputy, where abusive language is being foolish language is being applied to, and threats being made. If you threaten, we're talking about extortion, and the kind of conversation that Dale Liner, based on reports, made to Jamichael Parks, that is a way extortative. It seems that it would fall under the extortion statute. There's a separate statute called the involuntary servitude statute. Remember, slavery in the Old South was involuntary servitude, and when someone that statute doesn't quite apply here, because we're not in a labor producing situation there at that gas station in Bradley County. It wasn't a question of I'm forcing you to work for me, and if you report me, I'll call the law on you, that kind of thing. There's not that relationship, but that law, the involuntary servitude statute, which is right next to the extortion statute, by the way, the one that is being used against County Commissioner Tim Boyd. That statute makes reference to the offense of involuntary labor servitude, and part of the threat there is that you will abuse the law or legal process, and that you'll use blackmail or use threaten financial harm for the purpose of exercising financial control over the person. So the sheriff's deputy in Bradley County, he wasn't trying to gain financial control over Jamichael Parks, but he was threatening abuse of process. In other words, I'll make sure you don't get bond. I'll take you down to Chattanooga. I mean, how can a deputy in Bradley County say that? How can the sheriff's deputy say something like that? I'll take you out of my jurisdiction to Chattanooga. That'll really put your family in a bind. They'll have to drive all the way down into Hamilton County to get you out of jail. That is that kind of language in the involuntary labor servitude statute is attacked, right? You can't use that kind of language. You can't make that kind of threat. You just can't. And so what I want you, my listener, to care about is people like that. These are African Americans, and the problem is not worse. The problem is not worse. The problem is not worse because the people making the claim against the officer are black. The problem is bad because there's no probable cause, and that is what gives any officer or deputy the authority to stop someone. Is probable cause. It cannot be pique. It cannot be anger. It cannot be personal animus. It cannot be irritation at an individual, or irritation at that individual's race, or that individual's T-shirt, or that individual who may have said something. That's not probable cause. The cops in this story seem to have operated without probable cause. And here, Jamichael Parks was arrested. He was cuffed, and he was told to sit on the curb, like property, right? Sit on the curb while we harass you with language. And we'd like, of course, there to be the other side, and would certainly give the spokesman for Bradley County Sheriff's Department occasion to discuss this encounter. And we'd like to know if there is a record, either an oral record or video record, of it, because the record that was being made by phone by Jamichael Parks is not extensive, and the cops seized the phone and apparently turned off the recording, and as Jamichael Parks says, deleted the file. They deleted the file with the encounter, and so this is David Toulis, and we are wanting there to be less foolish talk and less abuse of process, less abuse of the process. And we have the firing of Putnam County Election Commissioner Terry Herron, because, again, threatening a process as a joke. Ma'am, we're going into the jail and we're taking care of election matters in the jail, but you, ma'am, are going to have to be strip searched here in the room where the voting is going to take place. That is simply untenable. It simply can't be. You, my listener, should shrink from doing things like that. You, especially if you're a man with a sense of humor, should shrink from saying. Ben Benton is a writer at the Chattanooga Time-Free Press and has a part 2 of an important story. It is in the business section at the bottom of page C1, and I want to mention it to you because it is a part of the argument I'm making here through a transportation administrative notice, which is to say, I've given a very detailed analysis of state law and federal law pertaining to the constitutional right of travel, one that Neil Pinkston denies exists. Neil Pinkston flat out says it doesn't exist. However, he's wrong. It does exist, and it fills the statute books themselves, and many cases that make a distinction between transportation and travel. The story by Ben Benton headline is "Trucking Firm Ordered to Stop Transporting Hazardous Materials." Now, what's happened is that the federal government, which regulates transportation, has sent a kind of cease and desist order to a company, and the company is found on Beanpot Campground Road. Okay, Beanpot Campground Road in Crossville, Tennessee. The company's name is Rock City Stone Company, LLC. And it got on Tuesday a 16-page imminent hazard operations out of service order by the good people at Federal Motor Safety Carrier Safety Administration. That's a very long name, and this is in Cumberland County. And the problem has been that the company has been carrying explosive material without the proper permits and without the right placards, permits and licenses, and the right placards on its motor vehicle. The motor vehicle in question is you can see what it looks like at Euronews.com. That's Euronews.com if you go to the Chattanooga section. And what firing back very rapidly was the owner in according to Ben Benton, a 198-page request for the federal officials to rescind the order. And that went out yesterday by overnight mail. So the good people in Washington are getting this 198-page request to rescind the order. And I take it that it's a ban on the use of motor vehicles in the transportation of explosive material to rock quarries in this part of the state. Ben says that the company is allowed to continue blasting work, according to the owner, but cannot transport any hazardous materials. And so suppliers are going to be making deliveries directly, not through the Rock City Stone Company, LLC. We're limited in our business, he said to the TFP, but we're not out of business. I do feel we've met the training requirements. The last 10 days, my guys have been in training. We've probably spent $10,000 to $12,000 getting everything up to date as far as the training goes. And the traffic stop, the transportation stop, was initially on the 23rd of March in a red F-250 truck on Highway 28 near the National Guard Armory. The stop was by the THP, the Highway Patrol, and the Dunlap Police Department. And the issue, I bring this up as you say it's just a detail, but it's important to understand what transportation is. Transportation is this very thing, the carrying of goods or people for hire in commerce, and you're subject to regulation. You're subject to regulation. Why? Well, there's a public interest in the safe use of the roads. The roads belong to the people, and they are free. They are free to the people to use for pleasure, personal or private necessity, or any private requirement or duty or even a private business. But if you are in commerce, if you're using the roads for hire, you're making a profit on those roads, carrying, as I say, goods or people for hire, for pay, for profit, then you're subject to regulation. And if you're carrying certain types of materials, you're under even higher levels of regulation. So if you're carrying explosives, you are much more dangerous to the public interest than if you're carrying a load of furniture, okay, from a manufacturer, or rolls of carpets from Dalton to Chicago. That's transportation as well, but it's less dangerous. And so the level of regulation, the level of supervision, the level of licensure and training of your operators or drivers is greater if you are carrying something dangerous like gasoline or explosives. Now, the question here is raised because I'm concerned about Rudy Soto Rodriguez from Lee Crest Lane, who is he is my not poster child, but he is a picture of the problem that we're facing. And Sheriff Jim Hammond and his officers arrested him recently and put him in jail and forced him to bond his way out or make his way out and face the judge. He's facing the judge on the 1st of May in city court. And the accusation is that he was driving. That's the number one. And the second accusation is that he was driving without a driver's license. That's part two. Part two, of course, is premised on part one. And that part one has to be proven. How do you prove that someone is driving? Well, that he has a manifest or a document that describes the contract under which he's operating his car, his motor vehicle in commerce. Rudy was just traveling to his job, probably. I don't know exactly where he was going when he was arrested. He was using his car or truck for private purposes, not involved in transportation. And the law, according to my notice to Sheriff Jim Hammond, allows that to be done freely and at liberty, without permission, without permit, without any connection with the state at all. So we have a legal, I would say a white legal political establishment that denies this right. Even the high court denies it. But we have the law itself and much case law making clear that the passage of the 1938, 39, or 37, 38 Driver's License Act did not destroy any constitutional right, did not abrogate any constitutional right at all. And yet that traffic law is enforced as if it did, as if you cannot be freely on the road. Don't go on the road with TNT. David Tulis.
Chattanooga Morning News with Russ and Val. Weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.